All right, yeah. So I figured the idea for this podcast would just be, yeah, obviously we have a member from each of the podiuming teams on, and then we're going to ask them a bunch of questions. We got a bunch of questions from the community that they want to know about. So I think we'll probably just, go through some of the questions and then some of my questions, and we'll just kind of like talk openly about stuff. But yeah, I mean, do you guys want to go right into the BB5 recap, or do you want to talk about what's being talked about in the general chat from like, so basically there's been a lot of talk about like easy hover. That seems to be the thing that people are talking about right now. So I don't know if we want to put in like 5-10 minutes about that to see what people's takes are.
Let's do it.
All right. Anybody want to start? I guess does everybody know what we're talking about here?
The addition of a possible
someone catch me
or something like that.
Yeah, basically, I think there's some talk about like the tap rate now. I think there's like two main arguments. The tap rate now benefits people who can tap really fast, which makes it unfair to people who can't tap as fast. And then also is a little bit of an accessibility issue, like people getting injured and stuff like that. And then whether or not we should lower the tap rate or introduce some sort of easy hover where it's like you hold down the button and then it allows you to establish. There was a couple of different proposals for what solutions there could be. But yeah, just in general, it's that maybe the tap rate is too quick or tapping too much could lead to harm or something like that.
Yeah, it's funny we have the person here that kind of made it a thing, right, Brian?
The first injury.
The
first public injury, right?
Patient zero. The Bumble virus.
Jesus.
Yeah, that was me. I didn't want to weigh in like in Discord because but yeah, I mean, I guess like, yeah, in BB1, my hand, like I think famously, like in mid tournament, mid game, I was like started spasming like around this forearm area. I got a bit of a blur, but it was like near the elbow. Started spasming, started cramping, and I couldn't tap anymore. Couldn't play the game anymore. I was queening. So pretty bad. We switched off. I think I went to like drone or something. Yeah, I think well, people say, I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but people say that that's why easy hover was kind of put in. But this is also like a year or so later it was put in, I think.
I'd heard like there were a couple injuries at that point, and yours was sort of the last straw because it was just like so visible and so public and like really like ruined what was a really good set up until that point. Which was yeah.
We had Bert here in Chicago. The 25-minute famine is largely what he cites as like him having to start taking a step back, and then eventually literally going to the gym and like figuring out how he was going to work out his forearm differently just to be able to like keep playing the game. It feels weird.
Yeah, so, and then there's Camp 2019. Everyone had their own like avatars, like people like drew like caricatures of every queen. And Toshi's was so fucking funny because he would wear a compression sleeve and a tennis elbow like band or whatever, like both. And so someone made like a matrix cybernetic like arm of his that's like robotic and shit. And if that's not like kind of like, if that doesn't speak to it, like even if it's a playful way, like saying something like yeah.
So then is that to say that all of you are generally like for some sort of change to the tap rate now, or like an introduction of some sort of easy hover or anything like that?
I would say that I've said from the beginning, since I started playing, that mashing is an inherently bad mechanic. The biggest thing for me is that it encourages injuries and it bars people with disabilities that would otherwise like have complete, be completely fun with the strategic element of the game. It bars them from being able to play. And I think that at this point, it is impossible to completely decouple the game from some sort of mashing mechanic, but it would be irresponsible not to do everything we can to try to mitigate those problems.
Yeah, I've heard.
Big fan of at the very least, hold the hover while you're on the ceiling.
I've heard a proposal where holding the button would put you at hover, but not at max tap speed. So like the fast tappers would still get their advantage for like fast rises and that sort of thing, but like holding hovers on the ceiling would be, you could at least hold the button to hold the hover, right?
Yep.
So that seemed like a decent compromise in my mind, just so like the fast tappers still have some things that they can do still.
Yeah, because I think the concern there is hover transfer. If you just hold the button and you're scraping and you're at like at the establishment tap or whatever, and then if you can just hold the button into the next hover transfer, But if it's at like a lower rate, like you say, then I don't think the hover transfer would work.
Yeah, I mean, if it just goes at like, my tap rate, which is 90, which is not enough to hit hover transfer, like I'd be fine with that. Like, can't really do it anyway, so
Yeah. So like BK, how did you feel when they lowered the tap rate? Like, were you happy about that? Or how'd you feel about it in general?
Well, I thought it was better for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there were two kind of things that led me there. But the first one was that back in the day, I don't know if this argument, or I see like this argument kind of today also, but back in the day, the first argument was like, oh yeah, like it's a skill, to tap fast. And I was like, it's kind of a boring skill. I tapped the button fast, like whatever, cool. And like, everything else that is good about all these other mechanics people are talking about is like the timing, the like when to use it, things like that. That's what's interesting. And then the second argument was that like, well, some of the best players in the game, Felix, you just said yourself, your tap rate is like 90, which is half of the, the tournament winning, competition winning tap rate, whatever. Woody's is like around 80 something, I think it was. Wise is lower. It's like some of the best players in the game, they don't tap fast. You don't need to do it. Yeah, so I thought it was good.
But
I like that you
go ahead.
I like that you bring up that like it's more about like when you're doing like certain amounts of taps is the more interest is like the part that is actually has an effect is like the real skill, That's what I think is like interesting of how Ian said like it's kind of impossible to decouple like tapping off of the game now because of that exact thing that you just said, which is like if we were to find a way to have like where you hold the button at a certain point, like it would change the dynamics of when you are like just pressing the button to hover, and then when you're like hitting like 2, 3, 4, like in certain like flutter like patterns or something like that, that would change the game like pretty dramatically. Which isn't, change isn't bad, but I think it still needs to be like really has to be like thought out and conceptualized a little bit more. But yeah, just thought that was a good connection of those two things.
Yeah. I mean, I joined the game after the current tap rate was already implemented, so I don't know what the tap rate was before, but yeah, I'll take the other side of this argument in that, like, I don't think that it should be changed now. Mostly just because I think a lot of the things that you're all saying also goes into why we shouldn't change it. Like the fact that there are people who are not super fast tappers who are at the highest level of this game, I think that speaks to the fact that like maybe the current tap rate is okay. Like if they lower a little bit, whatever, it's fine. Like I don't care that much, but I do think that like tapping is a core mechanic of the game, and that is what the game is. And I think, in any sort of competitive endeavor, there can be injuries regardless of what you do. And then because this is, an esport and you can sort of change the mechanics, you can sort of change the rules. I can understand why people want to do that, but I always kind of find it like par for the course. As you get older, it's harder to tap. Maybe you get more injuries and stuff like that. And I think, I don't know, that's just part of aging and losing your top skill ability, right? And I don't think that it necessarily needs to be accounted for in a game or mechanics. That's kind of my take.
Yeah, I have
remember
a.
when.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you talk. Actually, go ahead, Felix.
Yeah, when I played, so I played kendo for a number of years, and when I was you know, in my early 20s, they were like, you know, you can play real fast and as hard as you can, but like as you get older, you gotta like slow it down and like think more and like use your head more instead of just like charging in heedlessly at any moment, right? Like sort of the expectation was that you would slow down as you aged. But that didn't make you worse at kendo. It just meant you had to learn a different set of skills.
Right.
Yeah, more
The adaptation
technique based.
is important. There's always that talk about Michael Jordan and how at the beginning of his career he was able to like jump out of the building, and that was a big part of his game. And then eventually, as he got older, like he started to introduce like more mid-range shots, and shooting became more of the game. So I do think that that's just the beauty of any sort of sport or competitive, you know, competition sort of thing, which is like you adapt based on your own limitations. And I would say there is something if the tap rate is so bad that people are getting injured all the time and stuff like that, but it feels reasonable to me. But I have nothing else to compare it to, so that's all I'll say to that.
So I have two things that, well, one, I want to agree with you, Chris, generally, and like I want to give like an example. So let's say the rules of baseball say you have to swing a bat and hit a ball. There's plenty of ways you could swing a bat that are unsustainable for your body if you do it over and over again, that are going to hurt you. But if you, so, and they, albeit they might be like very effective, like, you know, and I'm just spitballing with an example, but I think we should, you know, like maybe what we could do instead of like the game being like arbitrary, like not arbitrary, just because the game wants us to mash a button doesn't mean we can't find like sustainable techniques to like do it like per person, you know, and like help each other do that. Because that's what made me change my tap styles. Was when I first started, I was doing single tap, and it started to hurt, and so I was like, well, I got to experiment with other tap styles. And now like my triple tap is like my autopilot, like doesn't burn my muscle or my, you know, doesn't hurt me. But it's like, so like I kind of think like at the very least we could start by like doing a bigger job as a community and even as Bumble Bear, by like doing some research into like what the different tap styles are and like what kind of effects they usually have on people's bodies, and kind of like just educate people on that and be like, maybe you should experiment with this if it hurts like this, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Throw out though that I think that the biggest, like I'm still pretty firmly of the opinion that we need to do something, or you know, whatever we can to make the game more accessible and to make the tap rate more, you know, suitable for long-term play. I feel like I've always thought of the tapping part, the physical part of the game, as serving the mental part, the strategy, and the like tapping faster or being able to tap faster, physically being able to tap faster, does not, to me, have really any play in whether or not somebody would choose to tap faster. Like, you know, I think really, honestly, the biggest thing to me is like go back to like anybody with a disability, like that in, you know, their hand and their arm, anything like that would stop them from playing this game. It would not by any means stop them from understanding the strategy, be like understanding, okay, you want to max rise here. Okay, I want to, you know, cap here. Like I want to stick into this pinch. Like any of those things are pure, like the parts of the game that I'm like, oh my God, that's impressive gameplay. They're the mental part. And they're again, like you can't completely decouple the tapping, but introducing as much choice to people as possible is, to me, the way that you get people to express themselves through the strategy of the game. And that's really what I want to see.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I keep going back to this phrase of like what the beauty of a game is to me. And I think it is that it's something different to everybody. And to me, when I hear like you love the strategic part of it and that's the most important part to you, I think that makes a lot of sense. But for me, I think it is the combination of the physical exertion of whatever the mechanic of a thing is, coupled with a strategy. So there's a lot of other sports or whatever I do, and I actually hear this phrase a lot where it's like, I understand exactly what to do, but I just can't do it. And my response to that is always, yeah, but that's the point. Like, you have to be able to combine the two things. Like, in tennis, like, just because you know where you're supposed to hit a shot, the ability to hit the shot is equally as important as the knowledge. So the combination of the knowledge and the physical capability is what makes games great to me. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on this. So does anybody want to have like a last word on this? And then we'll move on to the BB5 recap.
Yeah, that's cool. One last thing. I do agree with you on the sort of like competitive aspect of the game, but there's a lot of people who don't play for that. And I think that it's important, like kind of, I think what Nick and Nicky and Ian were trying to get to was it's important to serve that part of the community as well. And it's how we get competitors, right? Like, if we don't, like, the people who design basketball courts or hoops for kids or whatever, they're not 10 feet tall, right? They're not designing like NBA level like arenas for like kids who are just trying to play the game and figure it out. And then one day maybe one of them becomes Michael Jordan. So
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could go on with this forever because I have like, I want to say that, but yeah, I'll hold my tongue. Yeah, we'll go to BB5. So yeah, I don't know. How did it go for you all? Like, how'd you feel about it? How'd you feel about the venue, the format, stuff like that? I have some questions from the community that we can go into, but if anybody has any general thoughts, we can just start with that.
I want to just start with one general thing, which is time. Like, usually like a big tournament, like we as a community and even Bumble Bear and Bumble Bash 4 like created a lot of time for everyone to just play. And this one, because of the venue change, I think mostly because of the venue change, and like the schedule that was set for the other venue, like transposed over onto the new venue schedule. Like, we didn't, like, Friday was just mostly like kind of sitting and listening to people talk on a microphone, and then like we had like an hour to play, and then like Saturday there was a lot of talking too, and like just in general, like there was not as much like general play, trash games, whatever you want to call it, that I would have liked to have seen, given how much effort we all went through to get there and stuff like that. So that's one thing in particular that sticks out for me.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people where there was a lot of talking. And I felt the same way, where it's just like, I think, when we go to these sorts of things, I think it's good to have like an update on the game and everything like that. But a lot of people there are there to hang out with their friends and to talk and to play the game. And yeah, outside of the unfortunate events of having changed venue and stuff like that, there did seem to be a lot of things outside of just playing the game that people wanted to move a little bit faster, right?
I'll leave a lot of the production thoughts to the production retro at some point that we might have. But yeah, we did lose. I would say we lost as much as like 48 hours worth of work due to the venue change. And that 48 hours would have been so much trash, like an incredible amount of trash, and just getting absolutely hammered with friends. And it's a shame that we lost that.
The bar was slow as hell too.
There
was like a lot of people, but I don't know, it was kind of crazy. But yeah,
you'd think a hotel bar would be faster.
I was just gonna say that.
I had somebody talk to me at the event. They were a little heated at the moment, so I'm gonna really kind of boil down what they were saying to what I think is maybe the most salient point, which is I think this Bumble Bash really kind of raised a question to some people, including me, about who Bumble Bash is for. I think that among many people, kind of came to it saying, "Oh, this is a tournament. This is like tournament, like all the tournaments we've gone before. We know what to expect." I think that there was an element that was lost for a lot of the participants, that was, well, this is also a bunch of other things rolled up into one. Nick and Josh are, they have other games, and I don't think it's wrong to want to show them off, want to push them, want to serve those games too, and serve community. But I think there is kind of gonna be an uncomfortable conflict of people's interest, and I think we kind of saw the beginnings of it this year. For the people who showed up to play, as treating this as like the apex of what a Kayla Queen tournament is supposed to be, and then maybe coming away a little disappointed.
Yeah, I absolutely felt that. To me, it's just a situation where there are certain things that don't happen in the ultimate tournament of an activity, and things like that being like, you can't have a new build that has a bunch of bugs in it. And I don't know if you guys experienced it, but yeah, there was a situation where in one of our games, Toshi went through the wall.
I saw that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so we'll play the clip.
I
Well,
I saw the ledge.
game.
I saw the Portland ledge
No.
where they phased through the ledge.
Yeah, so it's
which
happened a
wasn't
couple
great.
times in the tournament, right? And those sorts of things cannot happen in when you want it to be the biggest tournament of the year, or like the end all be all tournament. And it's also something that just didn't need to happen. You didn't need to push out a new update. But like you were saying, this was a lot of different things, right? They were trying to show off this new build. They were trying to show off their tournament mode or whatever. But to me, if it is about the tournament, then it has to be a stable build. And it wasn't just that it wasn't a stable build. It was also that everybody knew about the bug, but we weren't told what we were supposed to do if we encountered the bug. And what we had found later was you're supposed to stop the game and restart that match, which is also insane to me. Like, if I had to restart the match that we were in, I would have lost it, because like we were ahead and there was so much that already went in the game. And if that was like a grand finals game or whatever, I don't know what would have happened, but stuff like that just can't happen, right?
Yeah,
Well,
that's
the other, I don't. This isn't. I can't help. I cannot not say anything about this. Day one, I know that part of this was that there were delays and that we didn't follow. We didn't start on time, and so we were pushing back. Being on commentary when Bit Brigade started, and then having to shout into the mic over an active band, it did not feel like something that I came prepared to deal with. It didn't feel like something that was fair to the viewers at home, which I knew there were a ton of. They were present in the chat. Also, there were we were on the front page of Twitch for a hot minute, and there were a number of problems there. But having a live band in the background being okay, so there's 3 ways to win. If you're looking for something to keep track of, watch the Queens. They've got it was I felt like I was losing my mind.
They did that. I was commentating when they started their sound check, and people were in tournament games, and they were just really blaring really loud sounds. And I had to go up to the sound guy and be like, hey, can you wait until this session is over, which was not even going to be 10 minutes, and he just completely ignored me.
Yep.
And I was like, well, that wasn't very nicely scheduled, but that's okay.
It just feels like one of a number of things that suggests that not everybody was on the same page about this being a big national tournament for KQ, primarily.
Well, the registration should have maybe informed that. The price of the ticket and the things that were scheduled, the side tournaments that are on the same time as the main KQ tournament, things like that. I have a lot about that to say about that, but I will say that having Bit Brigade up, awesome, but not great. I bought what is it? Earplugs. I bought earplugs for everybody on my team, and I just like shared the rest. But I was just like, man, this kind of sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
My team was one of the teams on the cab right next to the stage,
No.
and we definitely dropped a game because of it.
Ugh.
At least one game. And Chris was also on that cab actually, and I could just see afterwards, like, you know, they lost a pretty hard fought game, and Chris was livid.
Yeah, I've swore at this tournament more than I swore at any other tournament. So yeah, definitely. But that wasn't just the tournament. That was like other things too that maybe we can get into. But yeah, there's a couple of questions around the format and the tournament itself that came in from the community. One was just about like, how did you feel about there were no power pools, and were they missed? Do you prefer power pools? How did you feel about that format?
I did not particularly notice. My pools felt kind of strong, but for the most part balanced.
Your second round was rough.
My second round was very rough. I think maybe if I had come in with a different team, I would have felt differently. Also, yeah, I don't know. Maybe if I was in one of those other teams, I would have. But like, we had a very strong but very even pool. It felt like there was a lot of teams that could have gotten first, but there were like 4 of them, and that. I mean, I don't know. I think that my ideal is somewhat pseudo randomized groups into power pools. Like I like having a little bit of both. And the fact that it kind of worked out that my second round felt like a very competitive pool. Like I didn't notice it, but like trying to angle it like that, I think is an important thing for a tournament organizer to do. So, can't tell if we got lucky or if that format, if that organizing just works.
It was interesting and unexpected for me to see an essentially level playing field. You know, as in like having your seeds determined against other top teams without playing those top teams, for example. That was interesting to me. Yeah, I don't know if I would have preferred a power pool, but or something like what Ian was just suggesting, but yeah, that was my feeling on it.
I think for bigger tournaments with like 20 or more teams, I think power pools are preferred because there's gonna be like pre-seeding is gonna separate a lot of different people, and if you just and pre-seeding, you know, exists for good reason and everything, but everyone kind of plays differently per month, even, like, let alone per day. So I guess the main reason why I would have preferred power pools or some version of it, maybe like the hybrid like Ian was suggesting, which I agree with. I think maybe more so just because, like, yeah, what Brian just said, I didn't get to play the Dallas team at all the whole weekend.
We didn't get to play you guys at all.
Yeah, I didn't get to play you. I got to play New York twice at the end of the bracket, and that was it. I didn't get to, like, there's a whole bunch of, like, if you're gonna bring a bunch of like talent into one room, like, don't you want to see them clash? But are you not entertained? You know. But yeah. I don't know. Even in groups, so I don't know.
Yeah, I would have liked power pools. I thought this was fine. Like, for the most part, it's like for me, it was an exhausting first day. So I think I kind of preferred like sort of a more laid back format, but like there was sort of added pressure to not drop games just because like your seeding very much depended on like how many games you won, right? And apparently what I found out from the group stage is that we were a team that would just blow through a lot of teams and then just drop random games for no reason whatsoever, which was not what I expected, honestly, but it was an interesting discovery. So I would have loved to play Chicago at least once just to see how it would have gone. But maybe there's always next time.
I think I can start with dedicated money match cap, which I want to talk about later. But
no, I just want to piggyback off of that. Kind of what Nicky was saying too is my team never got to play against the Dylan Lee Portland squad, either Portland squad really, or I guess we did play John Mark in the second set of pools. We only got to play you guys. We only played the Chicago team and then the SF team, and we played you both twice. We didn't get to play Dallas. It would have been nice. I think this could lead into a discussion about like matchups and things like that, where maybe my team had a very like fortunate run that like SF took out both Dallas and the Dylan Lee team.
I was thinking about that like after our matches. It's like, did we just take out like the couple shots we wouldn't get a New York Chicago matchup for the 5th year in a row?
Fourth year. First year was
right, because the first year was New York and Portland, was it?
Yeah, I think that the matchup conversation will be interesting. I think one thing that I wanted to share, because you all have a similar experience, because I think you were all top or either top or top second in your groups, whereas my team was middle of the road, right? We were middle of both of our pools. So my experience is going to be a little bit different than yours. And I will say that I think it is a better learning experience for an entire team having a format like this rather than power pools, because you get to play a team that's relatively similar to you, but also the teams that you can stomp and then the teams that are much, much better than you. So it kind of allows you to see your gaps. And I sort of appreciated that too, because I think like, it depends on what a tournament is for someone. Do you want consistent high level games, or do you want to kind of rate where you are based on like the entire nation and see how you rank up to people and what you need to improve on, where your gaps are? So I think this sort of format really helps with that. So I think a hybrid approach, like Ian was talking about, where it's like maybe you get the best of both worlds, is good. But I didn't mind this. It felt pretty good.
For the record, I brought that hybrid up because it was what we did at 40. It was what we were recommended to do from a number of other scene organizers, SF particularly, and I don't see any way of going back for us now. It felt right. It felt like the exact balance between allowing everybody kind of gets put into the mix at the beginning. You get those new teams, because I understand this sentiment. I wanted to fight the biggest, best teams when I was like very new, not because I thought I was going to upset them. It's because I wanted the experience of getting stomped and seeing what it looked like to play like against a very high level team. Like, what were they expecting? What kind of things were they doing to get us? I don't want to deny anybody that. I think it's only appropriate to have that be on one side, and then offset by also having those top level games for those hyper competitive teams to get, partly to get them warmed up. They've got a big day tomorrow. Having as much data against comparable teams as possible is an important thing. So,
yeah. There was discussion early on about World Cup style groups. So like, your first group would be randomized, sort of like the top seeds would be distributed across groups, and then the second seeds would be randomly distributed, so on and so forth, right?
Sure.
And then depending on if you won your first group or how you placed in your first group, you would be shifted to another group, right? Mm-hmm. So like sort of in that sense, it's the pseudo random to the power pool style.
Yeah.
The only problem with that format that I can tell is if you can end up in a group of death, right? Where it's like, oh, your pre-seeds just you ended up with like somehow one of the Portland teams, the SF team, and like one of like second New York or something like that, and it's just like oh, this is awful. This is the worst. And then you just completely miss out on your chance to be a top seed when you had the ability to. That was the only downside, which is why I think they changed it to all games matter.
For the record, that problem of missing out on your chance to be a top seed, the other side of that coin is that every team you face early on in bracket, or every team that you stomp because you were misseeded low, like that is their problem now too. You are creating that problem of, oh, cool, I'm facing the number 20th seed, full Dallas. Like, okay, fine. Now you were like, if you're matched up against the 20th seed, I think it's fair to expect that is a 20th seed level, team, and to throw it off is not just unfair to the team that got misseeded low. It's to every team that they face, and by extension to every team they didn't. Like it throws off the whole tournament to have major misseedings like that. Minor ones, there's something to be said. But
that was kind of the SF experience. Yeah, you guys were seeded 7th.
That was because we dropped. That was our fault. We dropped an extra game that we didn't need to, which was we blamed the band for that one. That was entirely the band's fault, and then that became Dallas's problem very quickly after that.
Sure. I want to bring up though that I don't think that it's necessary to. You don't want to sacrifice everything for optimal and exactly understood and proper seeding. Teams will have like variance from day 1 to day 2. Like there is an element of endurance that is just as much tested in a tournament format as any other skill. I think it is to look at the results alone from day 1 to day 2 and be like, oh, well, this was clearly a mistake. I think that you can't just look at that. There are times when the difference between the initial seeding or the seeding coming out of day 1 and their placement is so great that you're like, okay, well, something clearly went wrong here. But there definitely, there are teams that underperform day 1, and I've been on teams that have drastically overperformed on day 2, and then my personal experience of this tournament was underperforming day 2, and it was frustrating and a little sad. But at the end of it, I looked at it and it was like, well, first off, amazing thing to learn from. Like I will be going back and watching those a lot. But second off, that's just how it goes sometimes. Like, performance is a finicky thing.
Yeah,
back at
we'll
Salt
get into
Lake.
each person's individual performances and stuff like that. But before we get into that, there was a lot of questions around team formation that people were curious about. And one of the top things that people were asking was how did your team come to be, and how far in advance did you start planning your teams?
That one depends on. I think most of the time this depends on like, have you had success with this team before, and then you kind of like default to it, Like I know Brian could speak to that.
I hate running back teams personally.
Oh, okay.
There's something special about a team that does really well one time. Like I don't want to sully the memory of that team by having the risk of doing poorly the second time.
Oh.
What about
At least that's
time?
my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the 6th time or the 7th time?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever run a team 7 times.
Yeah. People already want to. Well, the quick thing about that is like last year, we actually asked Wilk if he wanted to do a team break reunion for 40, and he was like, "No, absolutely not. I'm a pinball guy now." And then he asked me. God
damn it!
Like 2 months ago, he asked me, "Hey, do you want to run Team Brave for Bumble Bash?" And I was like, "Dude, like, I just sent him. All I did was send him that screenshot of him saying, 'No, I play pinball now.'"
That's a really good answer.
That's incredible.
That's a classic Wilk thing. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
But to actually answer the question, kind of in contrast to what Nick just said, we didn't. Well, my team didn't plan on playing together until like 2 months ago, a month and a half ago. I think everyone assumed we would run it back. I think we kind of also assumed we would run it back, but it wasn't really clear. We didn't talk about it. And then it turned out like, oh yeah, people are making teams for Bumble Bash, and the signups here. Should we run this back? We just gathered on like a random Wonderful Wednesday in the backyard, and we were like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it one more time. And with the caveat that Kev made it very clear, and I have some thoughts about that, but Kev made it very clear that he was not going to practice as hard as he did for 40. He said, I'll do it once or twice, and that's it. I'll do VOD review with you if you want, but I'm not going to play as hard as I did before. And I think he's looking to wind down from Killer Queen in general right now. So,
I mean, our team didn't like officially form until similar timing. Like we were, because we didn't really know what Bumble Bet, like we didn't know what format it was, or it was all this like all these unknowns. And so finally, I think Marshall asked Woody if she would play with him for Bumble Bash, like I don't know, 3 months ago or something, you know. And Woody was like, yeah, of course. What do you want to just do the team that we just did? And so it's like, it's very similar. It's like, yeah, we didn't just be like, we're not just like, we're going to run this team until someone breaks it. It's like, because we're all humans and and things change and stuff, you know, like, so I don't know. Just to be very clear, it's not like, I know like I get a lot of questions from like Chicago players. They're like, when are you guys going to break up the dynasty? And I'm like,
Who asks you that?
oh, I've been asked that by at least two people that I can remember. I'm not going to dox them right now. I'm not going to.
Okay, good. Okay,
I'll do that later in different public channels.
that feels dirty. To
when
me, man.
we do the outtakes with the Lord shots.
Yeah.
So then I guess a question for both of you then, who have similar experiences with not officially forming the team until a little bit later. I guess
right? Because that is not my experience.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
No, just, which is like, did other people ask you to be on their team? And then because you kind of had it in the back of your head that you would run these top teams again, how did you turn them down? Like, just... Yeah, I'm just trying to understand like the actual scene dynamics of, you know, you're both like top players in your own scene. I'm sure a lot of people want to play with you, and then a lot of people want to go to Bumble Bash. How did you turn them down? Did you turn them down? I mean, you told us about the Wilk situation, but just like, yeah, how did that all go?
Yeah, I wasn't asked, but I think some people on my team were, 2 or 3 of them, and yeah, basically they just kind of stalled, both of them. They were like, yeah, you know, I just want to discuss it with the 40 team and then see what happens. And we never like met up in person until like that one random Wednesday. So we never actually talked about it. I think there would have been 2 potential other New York or like formerly New York teams. I think you can guess who they are, but yeah, there were other teams that were being planned and ultimately didn't go because of 1 or 2 people saying, no, sorry, we're running back the 40 team.
I wasn't asked. I think I was asked one time for a Bumble Bash team like a long time ago, and I said, and I mean like almost right after it was announced, and it was because I had this like trash game team that we've been trying to get together for a tournament. And I honestly didn't even know if I was going to go to Bumble Bash at that point. So I was like, I don't know, like, don't rely on me. And even if I was going, I still don't know what I would prefer to do. So yeah, I didn't really get asked either. So
That is surprising to me, honestly.
I think so.
yeah.
I think it's actually not surprising to me. This isn't because of who you are. It's because I think a lot of people overestimate the amount of offers or asks a player gets for any particular tournament. And it's funny because I've had this experience a couple times where it's like, oh, we didn't ask you to play with us because we already assumed you were on a team. And that happens a lot. So it's just like, yeah, if for everyone listening, like if you are forming a team, like it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, man, I played,
always toss your name in the hat.
Definitely.
Like,
And also get used to getting people saying no to you. That's a huge thing. Is like you cannot be like missing shots and missing opportunities because you're like, oh, well, they might say screw it. To have 100 people say no to you, like that's the process. Get through those, and then eventually you'll figure out how to actually put together teams and know what other people are looking for in teams.
It's a good life skill.
yeah,
It's almost like dating.
that's a good life skill.
It actually is, honestly.
I think also like getting to know what people want to go for, like kind of being like, hey, like, do you want to be on like a like do you want to be like, or will you take me in as your like apprentice for this team? Like I did that with Wilk. Actually, Robe Guy's origin story for Robe. We had this team in 2018 called Schiffer Robe, and I was queening. And Wilk joined my team because he wanted to. He joined the team because he wanted to like share his wisdom and his of the game and stuff, and like give us like, you know, give us a buff so we could like have a shot, feel like we did well and like learn from it and stuff. And I was wearing robes to tournaments previous to that because I had this sick ass robe that was like gold and blue hexagons that was in the pattern of the shining carpet. So I was like super.
Are you actually the original robe guy then?
I'm patient. I'm Robe Guy 0, and Ian is Robe Guy 1.
Ian, you've been lying
He's
about
frozen.
your origins all this time.
He's frozen, and it's
He's frozen
facial expression
because
for
of
him to
how.
be frozen in. It's amazing. He's like,
Oh,
but yeah, that was just mostly to point out that like sometimes like people want to do that. Like some people want to go. Sometimes people don't want to just go to a tournament and fucking bing bong everybody, you know. Sometimes they want to go to a tournament and play with other people that they like have a good time with as friends and all, and see that they're eager to like talk game theory and like kind of put it in practice for them, you know what I mean? And then and then other times like I don't really care about doing that, and I just want to like do really silly stuff in the game and get kind of toasty, you know.
Yeah.
It just, that's basically what it's like, find out what people are like going to the tournaments for, and then you like you'll have an easier time asking stuff like that.
we actually had a.
I don't know what's going on with my internet. Those cutouts are internet problems. But
We thought it was because Nick outed you.
no,
Nick,
are you
Nick
kidding
outed
me?
you as the copycat robe guy.
Brother, I will bite
I didn't
anyone's
say that.
style. I don't know. I'm going to just give a shit. I tell
I
that
didn't
story
say
proudly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick,
But
Nicky
no,
is,
Nick
Nicky is the
being
original robe
part
guy.
of my. I mean, Nick is part of my origin story of KQ, going all like back to he's literally the first person I met. Like there is no amount of, I'm not hiding any of that. That's
No.
the love letter to my, you know, in a lot of ways, my big brother of KQ, Nicky.
Oh,
So, yeah,
of
course, buddy.
only
of
love
course.
here. Only love.
Yeah.
One of these
Emotions
days
are
I'll
gonna
be
get-
on Bald Team.
We can switch
Hell
up.
yeah, dude. I'm gonna
almost
buy
there.
you your first razor. Let's go.
You're almost there. You're almost there. Man, bald versus almost bald might be a good set. Anyway,
Yeah.
no. What
What do
Nicky
you
just said
classify
is,
as almost bald?
I mean, you kind of got to see, you know.
I don't know if Nicky counts as almost bald, honestly.
I don't know. This part, you didn't see this part, but it's good.
We'll bust
I've
out the
had that
ruler.
Talked about it.
I've had that hairline before.
Mhm.
No, but what Nicky said is true. It's true. When I wasn't trying to bing bong or whatever the hell you just said. I was trying to play with folks that I liked playing with and wanted to mentor or whatever, right? Like Andy, Master Joe a little bit, in like 2018. And I will do that. I was going to do that post Bumble Bash. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I almost did a talk, or like threw my hat in the ring for a talk at Bumble Bash about team building. It felt like maybe it was a little bit too immediately like sensitive or relevant of a topic to do like I'm here on the mic for it. But like, I mean, I really do think that a lot of what I learned about team building came from just getting to know people and getting to know what they were interested in doing, what kind of teams. Because like, I mean, if you look at Bumble Bash, two of the most prominent players in San Francisco chose at the biggest tournament of the year to be on a builder team, a team that it highlights or supports newer players who are newly good, players who are trying to get good. These people exist. If you see them out there at another tournament or at an event or something, reach out to them, ask them questions about themselves, ask them questions about the game, do all of that like connective work to figure out like, you know, is this a kind of person I could learn from? And then approach them and be like, look, I see you like to play like this and on teams like this. I am trying to get good, or I'm trying to build this sort of team. Is this a match? That's how you get anywhere with anyone. There are a million reasons people will turn you down, and very rarely are they because they don't think I'm good enough to play with. It is very, sometimes it is that, very rarely.
Very rarely. It's mostly like, are you like annoying is my number one. Is my number one.
Yeah,
and
there's an element of that.
That's for only me to like know those metrics, and I would never like.
Can I put a little spin on that? It's maybe you two as people just like are not connecting on the same wavelength. It's not them. It's you.
You can edit it to be that instead of.
I like
this.
How many dating things are you going to bring in, Ian?
I don't know. How many do you need?
I mean, at the end of the day, like what we're learning about KQ is it's more like the social aspect really matters because like all team dynamics are built off of like, do you vibe well with this person? Like on some level you have to, like no matter like how much you clash.
If you have like stats for like KQ players, the like social morale like vibes one is a pretty prominent one that like
huge.
If it's low, it's gonna have a really big impact on the team, you know.
Yep.
But if it's like
I go on a limb.
it's like
that's actually a big lesson that I learned on this tournament too, which was that like my vibes went really low for this tournament, and I think like it definitely impacted the rest of my team. Yeah, and so I'm trying to figure out how to like not do that anymore. But yeah, sure, that's a good point.
That's a thing you can work on. That's another thing. Like that is I talk about the mental game, but the mental game and the emotional game go hand in hand. Those are things you can work on. They're skills you can build, but you got to go into the tournament or into practice or in whatever with intentionality about it. You say to yourself, okay, I'm going to intentionally put myself in the situations that I know that I, tend to get tilted in, or I tend to start dragging it down. And the only thing I'm working on is that. Like, I don't care if we lose every game. I don't care if I play awful. Does not matter. The primary goal of that session or that tournament is get better at that thing.
Yeah. So I want to leave the last 45 minutes for the actual matchups, but there was one community question that I really liked that I think that goes really well with what we're talking about now.
But just real quick, I wanted to show the picture of the.
Oh yeah,
that's Ian's first robe. That's Katie,
me with the hair.
That's Wilkin and Crystal Booth in the back, all in the robes. Yeah, it was
cool.
Yeah,
I pulled that one out of the archives.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to finish that. Go ahead.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. This is the community question that we had that I really liked, and then I feel like if someone didn't ask this, I would have asked it. But is it possible to build a top one scene team without hurting feelings?
No.
And it's funny because it's like you're all talking about how like the team sort of came. Okay, but yeah, go ahead, BK.
No, because the word top already will hurt people's feelings. It's like, oh man, I wasn't invited on the top team. I guess I suck, and people don't deal with that well. Yeah, there was when BB5 was announced 2 years ago. New York had the 2 top squads. You could probably guess all the members of the 2 top squads. I was not there, and I was like, because I was deciding to not play Queen, and I was like, wow, that sucks. I guess is this what I was doing before to everyone? Like, wow. No, but I mean, I knew feelings were hurt already from before, but like to experience it firsthand was different. But basically, I think no. I don't know if maybe like everyone just takes the SF algorithm and just like, says like blame the machine. Maybe that's fine, but no, inherently deciding off of skills alone, because when you say, oh, I'm building the top team of like whatever XYZ scene, you're saying like the only metric is skill. It's not like vibes. It's not like social whatever. It's not I like playing with this person. It's just I just want to win.
Throw out that I do think that to an extent, something similar to vibes is important in your skill as a player. But like I think of it maybe more as like a mental resilience thing. That like 100% is a stat that I think wins and loses tournaments. That aside, I think also, I mean, it's not even just about top 5 or top whatever. As long as there are people that wish they were better than they are, or wish they were perceived as better than they are, there's gonna be hurt feelings. Or at the very least, there's gonna be the opportunity for them, because coming to grips with the reality of like where you want to be in this game and where you are currently, that's a painful process. It's something, but it is not something that is ever going to be fixed by you getting on a certain team. Like that is not something that anybody else can just like come down from the mountaintops and hand to you. That's something you gotta figure out for yourself, exploring yourself.
I know that everyone's experienced like newer players that are like eager. They almost like clockwork do this thing where they get all their techniques in, they do it, and then they get a couple they get like 6 months of like really good play, and they're like, oh, I'm ready now. And then they don't get like asked to be on certain teams, and then like they go and play with free agents for a while, and it's really big bummer town for them because they like feel like they're better than that, because I'm speaking from my own experience, and like so many different players I've seen come up like over like a year or two, like the trajectory that it, and then like you see this one dip, and they're like it's like their confidence doesn't match with like what they actually are like good at. I have this one graph that I use for KQ that's really yeah, my hazard phase graph. Yeah, that's like that kind of represents it. That's like 3 different lines. It's like how much I think I know, how much I actually know, and how much I realize there is to know. And they like there's like 3 phases of them like not being in sync, and then finally they kind of come in sync towards the end. And it's yeah, the middle phase is called the hazard phase because it's when people like your perceived knowledge is way off base of everything else, and so you like aren't you're being kind of an asshole.
So
Yeah.
a question for that specific situation that you're talking about, where there's a player who thinks that they're at a certain level but they're not there. What do you think is the right approach to that player? Is it to not play with them? Is it to play with them? Like, what do you tell those players?
I think it's to find a way to like allow them to fail in a constructive way, and sometimes that is to play with them, and sometimes it isn't. It really depends on like what they need to experience failure at, like if they just like are like I'm one of the best queens in the city, and I'm like you're like, there's 3 really good queens and you're not the one of them. And so just to like give them a squad that a really good queen would get and watch them be the weakest link on the team, be like, see, now you have like footage and like full proof to like show like what you have, what you need to work on, and like to like balance out your ego with like what is actually practically going on, you know. That's what I like to this is the same thing when like coworkers, if they have a bad idea and they don't want to like hear anyone else's idea, I'm like, well, let's play it out then and see how it goes. Let's see how good of an idea it really is, you know?
Yeah. You know, the other nice thing about that is that you have a really, really insightful look into that person right after. Because if they are looking at that experience and the metrics that they are looking at, like, lead them to the conclusion that, well, actually, you know, I did pretty well, and like it was kind of, you know, my teammates like let me down here and there. Real easy to point to that and be able to say, look, you are not learning from this. Like maybe that's an internal. Maybe that you just think that to yourself and you just are like, okay, lesson learned, not playing with them anymore. But if there are 100% players I have played with, specifically because I've seen them take those learning experiences, take those losses, take it on the chin and be like, all right, let's dig into it. What did I do? What could I have done? You know, how do I take that and bring it to the next tournament? Those are the players that have like real longevity in this game. Those are the players I will always be here to support in one way or another.
Yeah. You've been kind of quiet through this. Do you have something to add?
I feel like this conversation went off on like a few different tangents. So what was the original question?
The original question was, can you build a top 1 scene team without hurting feelings?
That is...
Well, the problem is in the question. It's a good question in that it has a lot you can crack into, but the fundamental underlying flaw of the question is that the feelings don't really have to do with the building of the first, like the top team. The building of any team is gonna lead to somebody that's not on that team, and that person, whether or not they like want to put it out loud, like are going to wonder, why wasn't I on that team? Why am I on this team? Like all of those things, that's where the feelings come from. It's not about the first, second.
Yeah, I got the benefit of obviously looking at these questions before asking them. And then my response to this was optimizing for not hurting feelings is probably not the right way to go about like a competitive like community. Because you can't control like how people feel about one thing or another. So that would be my answer to this. But Felix, we'll give you the last word and then we can move on to that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I think there are reasons to be badly hurt by not being on a specific team, right? And in some ways, it will be unavoidable because depending on how you end up looking at it, it's in some ways like you can easily make it a reflection about you, right? And you know, I had the same experience as BK for Bumble Bash, where I wasn't on the top team, right? And that hurt. That hurt a lot because for years at that point, I thought I had proven myself as one of our top players. But I also learned at that point that was sort of flawed in my head, right? Like, it doesn't really... The most important thing, I think, is that number one, like, do you fit on the team that's trying to be built, right? Like, and at the time I did not fit on that team, right? And whether it was the first team, it could have been the second team, it could have been the third team, like it just was not the right fit at that time. I think the second thing is, like, how do you react to that realization that like you're not the right fit? And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad about it. I think what needs to happen, though, is that you need to figure out how to channel it productively. And like, don't let it become a indictment or judgment of your gameplay and your whatever else, like your place of belonging in the scene, right? Like, you're in the scene because like you love to play the game, but also because people can like actually like you. Like if people didn't like you, you would very quickly know this and be out, right? So then it's like, how do I channel this more productively? Like, do I, use this as a chance to level up? Do I use this as a chance to figure out how to get everyone else to level up? Like, do I coach? Do I like whatever you can do to help, right? Like, and turn it into a learning experience. Like at least that's how I handled it for the tournament that happened to me. Basically, I don't think there's, as long as human emotion is tied to the game in some way, and your performance in it, and like what you perceive as like the social hierarchy because of it, like not being chosen for a team will be hurtful. But I think it doesn't need to be a judgment about you as a person.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense that you explain things that way, being like a very introspective person that you are, and then looking at it that way. The only other thing that I'll say is, to the hypothetical type of person that I'm thinking of too, which is like the ones who do get really angry outwardly and not really inwardly and thinking about their own play, is like nobody else owes you their time. Right. So it's like when you ask to be on a team or you expect to be on a team, just know that like everybody else, it's like they pay money to go to these tournaments. They spend a lot of time doing it. They care a lot about it. So yeah, to some extent, it's kind of like a selfish ask to expect people to give up their time to level you up or try to give you a proving ground or whatever. When I've had those situations, I've been very appreciative that people were willing to sacrifice their time to help me, but I never expected it. And I think that's something that I'll say to a lot of players who get really hurt about these things or get really like maybe aggressive about it, which is like nobody owes you their time. So yeah, that's it.
Can I ask like a piggyback question for Brian? So I've been thinking about this coming into this discussion. Your background is in like you coached Overwatch at a near maybe not at a professional level, but at definitely a competitive collegiate level. Did you run into do your experience of team building and these kinds of attitudes and this anger and all of this does this map onto your experience of Overwatch?
Yep. I think it all comes down to what Felix was saying earlier, which is that as people, especially people always, and especially people who are into the, quite frankly, like nerd shit like this, like they get their feelings wrapped up in it. They put their sense of self-worth in it, maybe because like this is like the most successful they've ever been in anything or whatever, whatever it is, or like, oh, they really like this hobby a lot, which is often the case, right? Like, addict over here. So I get it. And it is that's the universal thing across anything with a team. At work, if someone's like, oh yeah, I'm building a superstar team of like whatever to tackle XYZ problem, and it's like, yeah, I'm not asking you to be on it, then it's like, okay, well, that's kind of cool, I guess. But yeah, it's always about like being able to couple or decouple, I guess, yourself from and your sense of identity and your sense of self-worth from the thing that you happen to do and enjoy and are kind of good at. Yeah, it pretty much just comes down to that. The Overwatch stuff was there were some rough times. I mean, these are like, in some cases like 17, 18-year-old kids. They don't really know anything about anything. And they're like, oh man, I love Overwatch. I want to play for NYU, whatever. And it's like, I'm going to these tryouts and all that stuff. And I'm like, man, this is not the right way to go about like life. The way you're kind of talking about this team and talking about making it and handling rejection and disappointment, things like that.
Yeah, why don't we get into the specific games and matchups and stuff? But actually, right before we get into that, like, what were your all's expectations going into the tournament? Who did you pick? Who was your pick to win?
Chicago.
I mean, who do you think? Like, I was hoping DFW, but Chicago.
I think we had. I was at like 80% we were gonna win. Yeah.
What was the other 20?
Damn.
The other 20 was like I don't know, like
Someone
you
gets hit
guys
by
gave
a
us
bus?
a really hard time at 40. Like both the New York team and the Dallas team gave us a hard time at 40, and we were like, maybe they figured something out there and like we're gonna drive a wedge into us somehow. So that was the other 20%. Yeah.
Maybe this was me trying to root for somebody else, but I had a different pick to win, and I thought it was going to be Portland Dillon team.
Oh yeah,
they were a very strong team.
Yeah,
like
because
I
the
could
way I
have
looked
seen
at
that
it was
happening.
they had the ability to beat anyone. I think they brought Chicago to 5, and then I would expect them to beat most people. So, and then yeah. So I thought that team was, if there was any team that I could see like beating Chicago, I thought it was going to be them.
yeah. That was in my podium picks too.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, I think everyone's top 5 would be the teams that were just said.
Yeah.
I thought personally we were going to be the worst of the 5. Personally. Yeah.
Damn.
That's funny because I was like, well, okay, that's that. What I'm about to say doesn't actually conflict with what you were about to say or what you just said, because like I was like, top 5 sounds reasonable for us. So like we could have been the 6th or the 7th. That would have been like just as likely for us, I think.
Ian, what was your expectation?
I definitely thought Chicago and Dallas. I had our team doing much better than we did. Admittedly, okay, yeah, sure. Fucking laugh it up, Felix. It's fine. I get it. I had our team as coming in 3rd. And first off, I want to say that our team, like, first off, I come into every tournament being like, no. Set the bar high and then make that the expectation. So 100%, there's an element of every tournament I come into, I'm like, nope, we're kicking ass. And in this tournament, kicking ass, 3rd may have been like even in that context a little aggressive, but definitely I was like, no, we're probably not beating Chicago and Dallas. But no, I thought that this team was gonna come in and do really well, and I do not walk away from that taking it as any kind of like, it doesn't become a tail between my legs thing. Like, we underperformed, and I haven't even gone back and watched the games. I'm going to, but I don't honestly even think it's anything about the team. Like, I think our team was really good. I think we had a couple of somewhat unfortunate things happen, and all you need to do is for that to happen twice, and your team's out. So I would run back that team in a heartbeat. I think that team has a ridiculous amount of talent, and with one more week of practice, I think that maybe we wouldn't get 3rd, but I think we do better than what we did. I think we do more how we did on day 1, which we were seated 8th. We were seated right below you. I think that feels appropriate, and it feels like something that could be recreatable with a little more time, a little more practice, anything like that. So
yeah, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with
for the record, I really appreciate your confidence going in, even if I was like, 3rd is aggressive.
Oh yeah, it definitely was aggressive.
But I appreciate that. Like, I go reverse Price is Right rules, which is like I try to go for the lowest bar that we can hit, and then anything else above that is like gravy for me. It's like, all right.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get the reasoning behind that too.
Yeah. I'm probably more in Ian's camp, where it's just like I look for is it possible for us to get a certain placement? And if I think it is possible for that, then that's what I aim for.
What did you think of your squad, Chris?
We ended about where I thought we were going to end. I thought the absolute best we could do is probably 9 or 10. And the worst that we were going to do was going to be about 20. And then we ended up like, tied for 13, 14, something like that. So we did about how I thought we were going to do. We hadn't, even though we were one scene team, we didn't practice together at all. And yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of takeaways about my own play of how it all kind of shaped up. And yeah, I don't know. We can get into that later if we want. But yeah, I don't know. I really want to make it about like you guys and like the top players and stuff like that. So, well, the first question comes from Woody, which is to Felix about like how does it feel to be the first podium team outside of the original teams.
I mean, that was well beyond my expectations. This is what I'll say. Like by the time we hit 5th, I was like, I'm happy. Like I am perfectly good. Like maybe one more so that we can like have our own spot in 4th. Like that'd be great too. And then like, we had that really, really like epic set against Dylan's team, which was probably the highlight of my weekend, and we ended up podiuming, and I was super excited about it. Like, I was just jazzed to be there, honestly. Like, whatever that like meme is, where it's like I'm just happy to be here. That was me the whole time. Like,
yeah. After a big game like that Portland game, did you feel like there was like a letdown going into the New York thing, where it's like you were sort of satisfied and that made you play worse? Like, how did you feel going into the New York? The New York matchup, did you think you were going to win? Were you just happy with where you were at? How did it feel?
So this is hard because like I go into New York. So first of all, like I definitely have had experiences where I'm just like I'm happy where I'm at, and then immediately scrub out. Like that's actually fairly common for me. So like if I really want to win, I have to like keep that in check. Not to say that we didn't want to win against New York, because like, second would have been great too. What I will say is that when we went into the New York set the first time, I thought we had a decent chance, and then we just got our shit stopped. So the second time around, it was like, this is fine. Like maybe we'll take a game or two, and we did take one, but I was definitely hoping it would be a little closer, like a little more stakes involved. But like didn't really feel like we gave New York as much challenge as like some of the other teams might have. That was my feeling.
That's the matchup thing.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Yeah.
Wait, that's the what thing?
The matchup thing.
Yeah.
Like I forget who it was. It might have been Dan Barron, but somebody I was talking to over the weekend was like talking about how the top 4 or 5 teams were just like rock paper scissors. I wouldn't put it. Was it you? Okay, yeah. I wouldn't put it as bluntly as that. Like any given team, any of those 5 spots could have swapped. I think any with any team. Maybe Chicago still wins like 80% of the time, like you were saying earlier. But yeah, I definitely think that there were what's the word? Like favorable and unfavorable matchups for every squad. It just so happened that ours against yours was more favorable for us.
Yeah. I'd definitely say that. We have some theories about what we could have done better, but like nothing concrete yet until we watch those sets back.
Was there a team that you would have rather faced in the finals, Nick? Oh, sorry, Ian, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I need to dip out soon. So I'm gonna say one last thing and then my thank yous and then get going. But I think I really wanted to touch on, because I really think it's hard sometimes to put into words exactly. But what Felix was saying about the kind of a habit maybe of being like, oh well, I'm happy with where I'm at, and then scrubbing out. That's what scares me the most. I don't take it lightly. I'm not just like, well, I don't do that because like what I think I've done with my mental game is built myself to the point where I'm okay taking failures, and I'm okay reaching far and then just taking one on the chin out of nowhere. But I lean on that when I go to tournaments and I'm like, I'm not happy. I'm not happy until I get one more. And then when I get that one more, nope, not enough. One more. Like I need that like hunger, that wolf drive of like, I am going to fucking eat your lunch. Come here. Like I need that. I need that. And it
Matt
makes
was hyping me.
hard. What's that?
Yeah. Matt was hyping me up for that because I was like, third
Good.
hardware, like I'm good.
Good.
He's like, no, hardware +1. And so
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
all right,
Yes, let's go.
Let's
Can we talk about Matt a little, because I was so impressed with him this weekend. Not because he didn't ever like slip up or falter, not because he was perfect, but because he had that drive, and that, I feel like he's so frequently like kind of goofy is not the right word, but so reluctant to or doesn't show that like emotion. But this weekend he was really emotional, and even when like there was a moment where it got a little out of hand, and I remember talking to him and just being like, hey, like that's not constructive. You got this, like don't lose that edge, but like put it into something constructive. But I was really, really impressed with Matt for so many reasons, but particularly because it was so he put it on the line. He was so there to win.
Yeah.
So
no, Matt.
I don't know.
Matt
I'll leave you with that much, but
yeah. Matt was incredibly impressive this weekend. Like I've always known that he has what it takes. And a lot of it is just like figuring out the mental game, right? Which, like, I say that as if that's the easy part. That's actually the hardest fucking part about this game, right? It's like some queens have that edge, and some queens have the skills to win. Like, you can probably pick out a number of them and have never won. And a lot of it is just because, like, in the face of that, like, adversity, they don't know what to do, right? And whatever you'll say about like Matt's like sometimes emotional, like I've heard people say like he has a lot of emotional turmoil, and like that people were doubting him because it's like it's the mental game, and I'm like, he has it, like, trust me, like I've seen him do it. I've seen him go that far before. And like in those high stakes situations, he doesn't crumble. And like, I think he proved that this weekend. I thought he proved it last year at GDC. And obviously, like, if he ever falters, like, we're there to catch him. Just, like, because like, he's probably the best of us at this point.
Yeah, I think the mental game is so hard because it's different for everybody, and there's no like straight path to figuring out how to solve it. If there's a tech issue or something, you can teach that. If there's like, if there's like a game state recognition issue, you can solve that by talking about it. But everybody's mental state is so different. And the funny thing is, when Ian was talking about how he looks at his drive for things, it's actually kind of opposite for me, because I feel so much pressure to getting to a certain spot that I feel like I underperform. And then once I get to that spot, I feel like the weight is lifted off me, and then I can play loose. And I think a good example of that was for Salt Lake City. Like it was my first time queening in a major. I felt so much pressure in the first two games that both of the teams took us to game 5, and I felt I was playing really bad. But by the time we did podium, I was like, oh, it's not so bad. And I felt just a lot looser after that. So yeah, I think that's just an example of everybody's like mental game is so different. And I wouldn't, it's like, you can't follow anybody else's path because you got to figure out your own shit in your head,
Sure.
Yeah,
but
that first game against Seattle, you were like, Jeff knows me. Like, I got to play safe. I'm like, Chris, shut up and let us do work.
It worked out.
I'm really gonna hop off this time, but I have so much respect for that. I love that people all have their own process. The only thing I will say is that is true, but there are best practices. There are good habits that are mental game, and if you find yourself doing some of the bad habits, if you find yourself lashing out at people, if you find yourself like saying things or doing things that you think of as uncharacteristic for yourself, or that you notice people don't like to be around, like, that is not you being a bad person. That is having a bad habit or a bad response to a stimulus. Dig into that, look into what that means, and train that out of you, because again, everybody's mental game is their own, but there are certain things that are this is the bar. You have to at least be doing this, or at the very least trying. So yeah, okay. I am off to South Korea. I will see you guys later, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the talk.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
See ya. All right. So this question comes in from Asher for Nicky. What specific things is Chicago doing both in game and outside of the game to establish itself as a dominant team in the nation?
It's way too thick. Let me just pick a piece of it.
Well, why don't we just break it down by the last game, right? Where it's like, how did you feel when you were about to play New York? Like, did you feel calm? Did you feel like you were just going to walk over them? Like, I guess what gave you the confidence that you were going to win that game?
The thing is, like, speaking of like matchups, like the thing about like us playing against like a kind of general New York style is that it took us like years to figure out how to break it. Like years, many years. 2 Bumble bashes, a whole bunch of KQ5s, and finally we started to like find a creek in it. And like then, you know, like Woody kind of built like this whole like structure of like strategy around it that we all kind of participated in. And so like it's the matchup we know the best. So it's in fact this is how well we know it. Yeah, and I know, Brian, you don't know this, and we didn't talk about this yet. This is how well we know it. But the last map, it was 2-0, and the last map, you guys picked a map. Woody pulled us in and went, this is when they're gonna do something really off the wall, like just pump Dave Berry's off the get-go. So like box it out right away. And that is almost exactly what you guys did. I just got up center and went straight to ledge, and sure enough there was 2 runners up there. Like that's like it's because we've been beat by them like more times than we beat them. Like so you have to have like their gameplay in your playbook, otherwise yeah, like it's like it's a
That makes a lot of sense. That's like a phrase that they have in a lot of sports, which is like it's hard to stay on top because everybody's looking at you, right? So everybody's studying your gameplay, and then because of that, they can kind of figure out and take it down piece by piece. But yeah, that goes into another question that Asher had for BK that I think is good, which is, do you think there's a better version of New York's classic control style that can beat Chicago? And he rephrased it as like, do you think that you lost to Chicago because of like a failure in strategy or a failure in execution or something else?
Yeah. To the first answer, yes. To the second answer, both. One of the reasons that I thought we were going to be like 5th or something was probably the obvious one, which is that first of all, teams know what we're going to do, but secondly, like the objective was not it seemed like playing against Chicago, it seemed like the objective was not to win on Snail or win on Berries. It was just kill Kevin, and I think any person would see that. And I knew going in how much practice he'd had. I knew it wasn't going to be as good as 40. So I knew like, okay, the teams that first of all know how we play, and secondly know that the weakness is Kevin, frankly, they're going to do well against us. And those teams that do like heavy speed warrior, heavy like take lots of shots at Kevin, and take like good shots, not just like fly into him or whatever. Those teams, Dallas, only Portland, Chicago, those ones are going to struggle against. SF doesn't play that style. It felt like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but SF style.
That is a discussion that's going on in the SF
channel
right now of just like yeah.
It's like, should we have just gone after Kevin? It's like that's sort of the discussion that's literally happening right now.
Yeah, but okay, so that's the issue. The best version of a New York squad would have to just bring up an example that Felix just brought up and Ian just brought up, it would have someone like Metal on Queen, someone who's like emotionally and physically resilient, like in the face of adversity. Kevin did not have it that day, basically. And I think that's why we got like steamrolled, right? Like it was 6-0. There were some maps that were close. I personally would have been happy to play Meat Map as our last map because the last Meat Map was close. But no, I also have answers to, or I have an opinion on that discussion, which I'll give later. But no, okay. Basically, yes, that the best version of a New York team would have been like the same version with a more stable Kevin, whoever that might be. Maybe it's Kevin himself on another day. It wasn't like, oh man, like their strats are better, or like our strats worse, or whatever. It was just we had the same basic principles. It's like, oh yeah, we want to be in certain areas of the map. They got there faster, mostly because Kevin had to get out because some of us were dead, or because he didn't feel comfortable, whatever the case. It's not so sorry. It was more, I guess, to actually answer the question, it was more execution. But I think that given the sort of strats that both teams had going in, I would have thought that there would be a closer result. But yeah, that it kind of just went off the rails, I think, for Kev specifically. Like he was not playing the way I'm used to seeing him play, and that kind of affected everyone. A lot of downstream effects when your queen is being chased and put into bad places, and you can't help. So.
Yeah. I guess another question I have, because we've talked about it a little bit, is where are you at in your KQ career? If you don't win a Bumble Bash, like, is that okay? How do you feel about that? Like, yeah, just are you winding down from? You talked about other players sort of winding down. Where are you at?
Like me specifically?
Yeah. We'll do it to everybody, but because you were just talking about it, we'll go with you first.
I think I have been playing for so long that I don't mind. Like it's okay. It's not to say that I will not actively try to win. I will always try to win, or mostly try to win, especially Bumble Bash. But yeah, I think the reality is that like New York as a scene is not going to be the way it was before, and I think people already knew that, right? Hence like the Eduardo bet or whatever. And the people with all the knowledge, the New York style knowledge and that kind of stuff, like everyone's kind of fading out. Life happens, whatever. I myself have thought about stepping back too. I don't think I will, but I thought about it. I've had a good run. I'm not gonna say like, oh man, like I didn't win this one specific tournament. It would be nice, but I would be okay if it didn't work out. Plenty of good and great players in every sport who have never sniffed a championship. So I'm okay being one of those. That's yeah.
I mean,
there can only ever be
we
one
can just go
winner.
around and just talk about that, or just riff for the past like 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, I mean, there can only ever be one winner of a Bumble Bash for any given year, and with how dominant Chicago and New York have been, like it's hard to break into that as long as both of those scenes like have their A squads out there. And I think people recognize that. I don't think not winning a Bumble Bash. I don't think not winning a Bumble Bash is a reason for anyone to just give up and quit, right? Like that would be very difficult because again, there's only ever one winner, right? So
I guess, do you have like specific goals for like the next few years in KQ, or are you just kind of like happy to play and yeah, just like where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, I've been around almost as long as BK at this point. I'm pretty happy. Like I'm pretty happy. Podiuming at Bumble Bash was not something I expected, and I'm like perfectly happy to like have that forever, right? Like that's. But like, I like to compete. I like that. Like I don't probably have the winning drive that some people have, but like I'm happy to feed the winning drive that some people have, which is, if someone is like, I want to win and they want me on that squad, I'm perfectly happy to be a part of that squad. Right. At the same time, it's like, be happy teaching. It's easier for me to be a safety net on a team more than like the actual driver of a win. But like either way, right? Like if you want me to play a role, if you have me like imagined as a specific role, I'm happy to play that role. That's basically it.
Queen Felix won.
Woody was asking that, and she was telling me, I only tap 87 times in 10 seconds. You beat me by 3 taps, so you should be able to do it. And I'm like, oh god, this is entirely true. I'll just make up another excuse. I'll make up another excuse to never queen.
Honestly, that was my like crusade for the past year or so, which was trying to get more different people to play queen. For the last GEC, like I was really trying to push Ryan to play queen because again, like I saw that Ryan was going to be a good queen, so we set up that squad for him. And I think that was just like a thing that I felt was kind of stale for a while in a lot of the places that I was playing, which was like it was the same queens over and over again. And it's not that they were bad queens, it's just that I think there was like a lot of talent all around that could have played queen more. So I think that was the thing that I was trying for a long time, which is just trying to get a lot more people to play queen just to see how it would shape up. And yeah, the next iteration of Dice Guys, like I would like, I don't know. It's like a situation where we talked about a little bit where it's like, I want to roll for queen too, so that Felix will have to play queen too. But yeah, that's kind of it.
Oh, this is awful. I should retire right now. That's what I'm doing.
Hey, I'm happy to facilitate new Dice Guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I guess Nick, where are you at in your career?
I feel really similar to Felix. I generally really like the game. I'm more interested in it being played well than me playing it well. And if it takes me playing it well to get people to play it well and like really like be creative in how they express themselves on the game, because it's a very expressive game. You can almost tell who's playing just by one little interaction, most of the time. I get stoked when people bing bong me. I get stoked when I bing bong people. I'm here for the best the game can offer, and if it's me, that's great. If it isn't, I'm gonna find a way to contribute to it. That said, I have this like I haven't like my queen, me as a queen has like I always get this like it like I just feel like I haven't given it a real try. I almost have a couple times here and there over the years, and then like Bombastry really bummed me out, and then I kind of like messed around with it a little bit. I got 4th place at Bumble Remix. Just hasn't felt like I just want to know what it is, where it lands, and I don't really know. I'm tired of like being like half trying and then being like, am I satisfied with that? Do I want to queen or not? I just want to try it and see what goes.
We'll give you a bomb squad again.
Yeah, I want to queen at a couple like medium plus tournaments, maybe a big one or two next year.
Pick one that Ian's going
get it
to,
out of my
and
system.
Pick one that Ian's going to in queening, and we'll just all hop on your team.
Yeah, that'll give me a big natural boost.
I'm here for Queen Nicky also. If I can't get Queen Felix, I'll get Queen Nicky. That's fine.
I'll take Queen Nicky.
Yeah, if you guys want me, I'll play on that too.
Let's go.
This is how the podcast guys. That's the new team. Podcast guys.
Ian's out. Ian's out.
Get out, Ian. Queen your own team.
That title without context, not sounding good. The podcast.
Who impressed you the most this weekend? Like which teams did you like not expect anything from, and then all of a sudden they were like, holy crap, those guys, what the hell?
That Josh B team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they tied 9th, right? With Shiplash and Keith and
Did they go there?
Oh yeah, they did, didn't they?
yeah.
Damn, I thought they.
think
I
when
know
they
they didn't go for the Community Cup, so I thought they went one more. But if they went 2 more, that's really impressive.
Yeah. I was like, there was no way this team is gonna hit top 10, no offense. But I was like,
They're so good.
yeah.
Like Jasmine's amazing. Goddamn. And Brad and Mo have both like taken meteoric leaps within the last like month and a half. Like
Very nice.
the JCC team, the one that
Oh,
was
yeah,
put
yeah.
together in the last
pickup
like
team?
25 seconds before the tournament.
Where do they-
Sam's coming. I have summoned Sam apparently, but
Yay!
Where did they end up? Where did they end up?
they ended up in the Community Cup, but they did like so in the first group, like it was it the first group or the second group? I don't even remember at this. It was the first group. So in our first group, we had Salt Lake, who we played a lot. We had Crispy's team, which we had talked about on the last podcast, and we had Sam in our group. And talk about just dropping random games. Sam just came out and destroyed us one game. Like it was not close. Oh my god, we just got like, I was just like, what is happening right now? And then we beat them the other 2, but it was one of those things where like we should not have dropped that game, and it contributed to us eventually playing Dallas in the 3rd round in the knockout, which turns out that was really good for us.
Great for us too. Yeah.
Apparently, yes.
I mean, I guess I didn't watch too many of the other teams too much throughout the tournament, other than like the San Francisco teams and stuff like that. I think I was just so much in my own head about like what was going on with my team that I wasn't really paying too much attention to other teams.
Yeah. It was I guess also we were all playing at the same time, so it was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, were there any teams that you faced out you were like, oh wow, this was like a lot harder than I thought? I mean, I guess Felix already answered that, but Nick, was there any team like that for you?
Well, I don't know. I guess
That's a no then.
yeah. I mean, well, I want to say Dylan's team, but I can't say that because I did expect them to be very difficult. You know what I mean? They were like, the thing is, they had this like this specific plan for us on a map, and it just really just like emaciated our whole thing, and it was like the hardest map we played all weekend for sure. And it was and I want to do like a case study on it and see like how interesting it was that they like made such a specific plan for us, and how it was so effective, and it really put us on our back heel, if not like our freaking toes.
Yeah.
And they beat us on some, it was, I don't know, it was a really, really good match. I'm excited to watch that back. But I wanted to say, as far as what's up?
I was gonna say, going off of that, like, did anybody read Melly's note that she posted in the Bumble Bash channel?
Yeah.
How do you feel? Well, I guess the gist of it was that there was like an illegal map pick during that matchup, right?
Yeah, there was a misunderstanding of the rules. We picked a map that wasn't allowed to be picked, and then they played it, or we played it, and then we won, and that was game 5. I think also that happened to them another match up the line. I'm not sure if they realized that yet, but and then they were upset that like there wasn't really like
enforcement.
Yeah, well, first of all, that there wasn't someone there to like kind of catch that, and that we both teams didn't catch it. But secondly, that once that was brought up as a concern, like there wasn't really anything in the rules to point out to be like, oh well, if you both played it, then it's a real map. And so they were like, well, I don't really like that, and I don't know. That's a pretty blurry spot for me. I like asking for a replay on a map that you both press start on because it wasn't a legal map is, I don't like, I think that just is
That's a
like
that's
something
a hard,
that, yeah, and it's something that needs to be like more like rules based than anything else. And I don't feel like, I feel bad that we didn't know the rules and that we made that mistake, but like that then happened to them again up the line a couple matches later. So
yeah. I feel like the precedent in a lot of other sports is that you kind of have to call your own. Like if the other team has a fault, you kind of have to call that.
yeah.
But yeah, it's hard.
Especially if there
Yeah.
are no line judges, right?
Yeah.
I think there was overcorrection on reffing after that. We went from having no refs to some very strict refs on some things that I think could have been a little laxer about, like time to start, for example. That was like
Yeah.
the big one. I know it's written in the rules. I'm usually the lax ref. I'm like the one who's like, just they'll take their time. They'll start when they start, right? But like,
Mhm.
I don't think anyone. I don't know if many people subscribe to my my laxness, I guess, on that. But it's competition. Like we want to see the best players play their best, and sometimes it takes a little longer to get in the groove. Definitely, we should have had refs earlier on to like make sure to just keep track of map choices and to call that sort of shit out, right? And after the fact, it's blurry. It's like I can see an argument either way. Like,
Yeah. I think it's hard to rely on the TOs because a lot of times, like at tournaments, they just look at somebody nearby and they're like, "Can you TO?"
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't like training for it or anything like that. So I do think that maybe moving forward, the kind of the precedent set or the way that it should go about is you are your own line judge, right? You call your own outs, and it's kind of on you to understand the rules. It could probably be easier. They can make it easier to understand the rules by like posting them and stuff like that. But calling your own lines, especially until maybe it gets to the top 3, top 2, I think is reasonable to me. Oh yeah, well, yeah. Thanks for everyone for like joining. I know it was like a long 2 hours, but really appreciate it. Hopefully people like it. But yeah, that's kind of all I had.
Yeah, thanks for having it, dude. Appreciate it.
all right, now the outtakes section where we talk a bunch of shit about everyone.
Unless you suck.
God damn it! I knew that was gonna happen.
Yeah, we should have had shit talking. Maybe next time.
There's. I mean, we're all friends here.
Yeah. None of you are annoying enough for me to say no to play on a team.
I think we just agreed to play on.
Yeah, we just agreed to
Yeah,
a team
exactly.
right here.
Yeah.
All right, who's queening though?
Wait, that was Nick.
I say,
Do not. Oh, right,
dice
it was
roll.
Nicky. Nicky was the queen.
yeah.
Nicky was the queen.
Dice roll. Dice roll.
No.
Dice
No.
roll.
Dice roll
That's not
5.
bad. That's not bad.
No. All right. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Yeah. Talk to you later.
See you later. Bye.
There y'all.